Chumrit Su. This is Daniel Simon, Managing Director at Rosewood Phnom Penh, talking to Renae on her fantastic show about the changes and growth in Cambodia in the luxury travel industry.
Hello, my name is Renae Leith-Manos. Welcome to this podcast, Where to From Here, featuring conversations about luxury travel and how it's changing in every pocket of the globe. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, thank you. Now it's Daniel, right? You have one of those names where you have...
Yeah, Daniel, Rob, Eugene, Simon. Yeah, so Daniel's my first name. I had plenty of bosses over time that called me Simon for the first 3-4 weeks, months.
I'm in love with your hotel. It's one of the best.
You.
I mean, I've been a travel writer for 20 years. And I mean, I should save this for the interview, but it was I don't often get surprised. I was blown away. It was fantastic.
That's nice to hear. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. And it's really smart to get someone like me in there and experiencing it all. And because it's just, I haven't stopped talking about it. I'm recommending it to everyone. I woke up at sunrise and got on the bike and cycled out there. I mean, that's really, life-changing kind of stuff. So that is always going to attract tourists. It really hasn't come back yet in Cambodia in the way it has in a lot of the world.
True. The thing is about Siem Reap, though, the thing about Cambodia as a destination, we always the second or the third destination on somebody's Southeast Asia trip. So they will spend, go to Phuket in Thailand, Bangkok, Samui or somewhere else, or go to Vietnam. And then they'll do one flight from Bangkok to Siem Reap, which is an hour. They do 2 days in Siem Reap and then they fly out. So right now, what we are getting tourists, the upper end tourists, that's flying into Phnom Penh, spending a couple of days with us here, and then go into some of the resorts interior in the country, like Shintamani Wild, for example, or Song Sa. And then they go to Siem Reap, and then we get them when they come out. So we get them pre and post their traditional Cambodian experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And have you seen any celebrities? I mean, is Cambodia a destination that attracts, some of the most famous people in the world?
Angelina Jolie, for example. I mean, she's probably the biggest celebrity that this country has. She's here fairly often. She holds a Cambodian passport, I believe, I've been told. She has a Cambodian adopted child. And she's done, several movies here. She did, Then They Killed My Father, I think it's called. It was just released. So she comes quite often. Apart from that, no. She's held in high regard. The king gave her a passport. So she's a citizen. She has a house here, not in Phnom Penh, but in one of the provinces. But she does really, really good stuff for the country. We need more like that. We need more. I mean, Matt Damon was here, did a movie in 92, 93 with Gerard Depardieu called Ghost City. We have a K-pop band come to stay with us in the end of November. That'd be interesting to see how that goes. And it's what's interesting because if we have those type of people coming to stay with us, that will then attract tourists from Korea and Southeast Asia because K-pop is so popular here right now.
Are they coming for a concert or what?
They're doing a concert. They're doing a concert here. So it'll be interesting to see.
Well, obviously, one of the most interesting things for me as a new tourist to Cambodia recently was discovering the history of the country, which is just so mind-blowing that, just 40 years ago, the genocide was so huge that some 3 million people were wiped out. Many of the amazing buildings were wiped out in Phnom Penh. So what you're left with now is a relatively young city. There's a huge amount of 25-year-old-ish, young people who don't have grandparents because, they're no longer around. So I think that gives it a real energy and a young vibe. And I have to say, having moved around a lot of Southeast Asia, the young people that I met were really ambitious. They're studying English. Their English is really good. They're thinking global. They're thinking about getting master's degrees overseas. They're thinking about working overseas. I think it has a huge future.
It does. I mean, I think 60% of the population are under the age of 30 right now. They're very ambitious. Most people have 2 jobs. or they work for us and then their family has a coffee shop or a laundromat or something like that. So they are very ambitious. I mean, they have to make up for lost time, make up lost financial security, etc. So they're very, very ambitious. So we as a hotel are supporting them. So we bring on board 12 of these students every year. We pay them, we pay for their room and board while they're doing the internship with us here in Phnom Penh. We pay them a full salary, and then we sort of guide them into the organization after their internship. When you and I grew up, our parents had wine at home, or they drank coffee and things like that. Here, they've never done that, right? So we're taking them and introducing them into something that they've never seen before, never been exposed to before. I mean, until Starbucks opened up in Phnom Penh, coffee in Cambodia was instant coffee, Nescafe, with condensed milk. So I was talking to my director of purchasing the other day, and he's 36, 37. And he told me the story that he went to Bangkok 15, 16 years ago and went into a Starbucks, and he saw all the different coffees that he could have. And then he ordered a cappuccino, and that was the best coffee he's ever had. But he never had that, right? So every day is a day of discovery here. Right. You know, the country is very technologically driven. Everybody carries one or two phones. Everything is on their smartphone apps, etc. Right? So, you know, they've never seen a rotary phone in their whole life. Some of these guys, some of these people. So I love being Cambodia because it's a country that is virgin in the sense of hospitality. It's learning. We are behind other countries like Thailand, for example. Well, what I find here is you find the genuine, almost a calling from them to service guests and look after people. They're genuinely very, very nice people.
Wow. Yeah, I felt that when I was there. There's just beautiful people. And the other thing I have to say is the local food in Cambodia, it's so hot right now. It's keto food. You know, unlike most Asian cultures, the emphasis is not on noodles and rice. A lot of the soups you get, a lot of the salads you get, they've got vegetables and salad, raw ingredients as their base, as opposed to noodles. So there's so much on offer that is, you know, really timely and a really modern take on things.
Yeah, so we've taken that a step further. So we had hired a consulting chef. Her name is Chef Nak. And she's probably the first celebrity chef here in Cambodia.
Yes, I read about her.
Yeah, so we just launched her menu the other day, and she's resurrected some of the dishes that were forgotten during the Troubles. And she's traveled all over the world interviewing the Cambodian communities in the US and Europe to pick up on their recipes. And I mean, I was at a dinner with her that she cooked, and we had some Cambodians sitting at the table, and she served them dishes that they had heard of but never tried.
Wow.
Yeah, so the Cambodian, I mean, I think Cambodian food is also, from a Western perspective, is more approachable than Thai food.
Not as spicy.
Not as spicy. It's more, like you said, more good ingredients, vegetables, meat, instead of having noodles like you do in Thailand.
That's fabulous. And the other thing I noticed in Cambodia is the artwork and the fashion is really high end. It's certainly very expensive to buy because a lot of things are in US dollars in Cambodia. Is that something that's, you know, inbuilt in the people? Is it because they're young? Why do we get such incredible fashion coming out of there, and art?
Well, I mean, fashion is a lot of these young adults have studied either in the US, UK, or in Paris, and you know, they're trying new things. We are sponsors of the Cambodian fashion show here. I mean, one of the girls actually had a runway showing in Paris last year. Oh, sorry, the year before COVID. But they're just, I mean, it's like they're kids in a candy store. I mean, they see something new, they try it. What's nice about Cambodia is they see something new, they try it. If it doesn't work, that's fine. We'll try something else. And they just push. And there's a lot about sustainability too in their design. So they like to reuse. And then art. Art is, you have two types of generations. So generational art right now, you have the ones that grew up during the Khmer Rouge, and their artwork tends to be a little bit darker. But then you have the newer kids, right? And the kids that do modern art. We are sponsoring another NGO out of Siem Reap. And they focus on arts and crafts and entertainments, and have a circus like Cirque du Soleil type, and that drives in income to the school. And then they teach the kids graphic arts. So we did an art exhibition in our art gallery for the last 3 months, where normally when we do an art exhibition, we take a commission of all the art sold, but because it's a charity, we decided not to do that. And they sold over $50,000 worth of artwork. And this was amazing art, right? It's not like stick figures. I mean, it was just amazing art. And people will come in there and look at it and say, how old is this person, right? They're like 14, 15, right? I mean, it's just beautiful stuff that they were doing. So it's also, all the arts and fashion is also supported by overseas governments. So you have the Swedish government, you have the German government, the Japanese government, through the Australian government, through various agencies that are supporting these artists and art, because culture travels through art, life travels through art, and they're coming through such a dark period in their lives, or the history of the country.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. And tell me, why did Rosewood choose to open a hotel there? Because it was purpose built, right? And having traveled a lot in Southeast Asia and stayed in an awful lot of luxury hotels, Rosewood Phnom Penh is one of the best. You have the most incredible restaurants, just interiors that just blow you away, amazing service, just flawless food. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So where was the brainchild behind all this to actually, why did Rosewood choose Phnom Penh?
So the building was built, and then we are one of the few Rosewood hotels that are not owned by Rosewood. So we are owned by a local entity here, and this building was built, and the envision was to put apartments where the hotel was at. And then somebody talked to the owners and they said, let's do a hotel. And then they went out looking for various operators. And Rosewood jumped at it very, very quickly because this was done in 2013 and 14. That's when the hotel was the contracts were signed. And our owner is very ambitious. He only wants the best. So there was a great marriage between a luxury operator who only wants to do the best and an owner who wants to do the best, right? So they're all they're trying to outdo each other in the design process and the materials that we use, and etc. We are ahead of our time here in Cambodia. We're probably 10 years ahead of where the country can absorb us into the system. I mean, if I took this hotel and I put it anywhere in the world, it'd be full. The restaurants are full. I mean, I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and I said, we are a group of restaurants with some hotel rooms. That's how the operation is right now. 70% of our revenue is from restaurants and events, and the 30% of rooms. And the classical restaurants, we have the Japanese restaurant Isa, Chinese Zangyang, the Cuts our steakhouse, and then Brasserie Louis are Khmer, and French brasserie. So it's and then we have Sora Skydeck, right? Same thing there with the first Skydeck Sky Bar in town when we opened up, and it's still going.
And you've won so many awards.
We did, so Cuts was our Chinese Cuts, our steakhouse, awarded best restaurant in Cambodia. It was one of the top 50 to be noticed restaurants last year by the world's top 50 restaurants. If you look at an organization like TripAdvisor, our restaurants are ranked 1, 2, and 3. Isa being the #1 restaurant, Cuts #2, and Sangliang Chinese #3. So it does well. I mean, we operate them as independent restaurants. So they all have restaurant managers, they all have executive chefs for each restaurant. So we drive them that way. So when you walk in there, you don't feel, and I think you notice the same thing, you don't feel you're in a hotel restaurant at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. But then I have to say that globally, the standard of restaurants within hotels has really changed. I mean, 10 years ago, you'd go to a lot of, high-end hotels and you wouldn't eat in the restaurants, whereas that has reversed now. And globally, there's much more of a trend to go to a 5-star hotel to try the restaurants in there because you know they're going to be good. So I think that's a really positive thing for hospitality all round.
I mean, true. I mean, when I started in this industry 30 years ago, yes, everybody will come to eat in the dining room at the hotel because you had, French service, etc.
Yeah.
And then it slowly died away.
Yeah.
And now we get smarter, and some hotels bring in celebrity chefs, but also hotels said, we can do this as well as anybody else can. So now we focus on it. And Rosewood is very much food and beverage driven. We have this sense of place. We want to be a local, connected organization, business. And to do that, we need the neighborhood to come and use us. And the only way for them to come and use us is to have good food and beverage. And we welcome it.
Absolutely. And Daniel, where were you before this role? And what was your reaction when you heard Phnom Penh and Rosewood?
I was in Bangkok, and I was one of the casualties of the COVID pandemic. So I was made redundant at my previous hotel in February in 2022.
Which hotel was that?
Anatar Siam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is the old Four Seasons in Bangkok. Then I spent 5 months reconnecting with my family and all these things. So it was actually a blessing in disguise that this happened.
Yes.
And then I got a phone call from somebody saying, hey, they're looking for a managing director at Rosewood in Phnom Penh. Would you be interested? And I said, well, give me a few minutes to look it up. Because like everybody else, Phnom Penh, never heard of it. Well, I heard of it, never been there. Don't know anybody who's been there. So let me take a look at it. And I started looking at the website and saw the hotel. And then made some calls to some people that have been here. And I said, well, I'd be stupid not to take it. And, when I walked in here, I mean, I just love it. Love at first sight.
Absolutely. Do you live in or?
I don't. I live outside, which is a good thing. I haven't lived in before in other hotels that I managed, and you don't get that disconnect, right? So you're always at work. So I live a 5-minute walk away from the hotel. So I wake up in the morning and I see the hotel when I have my morning coffee. There's pros and cons for living in or living out, but I like living out. And it's good for your family too, to not always be under the eyes of the guests. And I mean, I was in one hotel in Japan where everybody knew where the GM's apartment was. So sometimes you get a knock on the door from the guests and, can you help me with this? Which is fine, right? But you sort of didn't get that disconnect.
Which hotel was that?
That was at the Four Seasons in Shinsanso in Tokyo.
Oh, wow. That must have been an amazing experience.
It was. Japan is a spectacular country. I mean, it's everybody should visit it after they come to Cambodia.
Absolutely agreed. Absolutely agreed. And as a European, do you see the future, certainly of luxury travel in Asia, in Southeast Asia? What's your perception of the future?
I think luxury travel in Southeast Asia is just starting. People are you can go to the tented camps in Thailand, you can come to the tented camps in Cambodia, you can go to the tented camps in Luang Prabang in Laos. We are more Western oriented now in our hotels, more modern, where in the past the hotels were old and colonial. So we have now both, right? You can stay at an older colonial hotel if that's what you feel like doing, or you can stay in a modern hotel like ours.
What do you see as your biggest challenge, sitting there in Phnom Penh at the head of Rosewood?
Our biggest challenge is making the rest of the world aware of who we are and where we're at and the reasons for coming to Phnom Penh. The country needs to somehow get the message out that we're open for tourists. We were the first country in Southeast Asia that opened up during the pandemic. So November 15th, we were open. No quarantine, nothing. All you had to show your vaccination card. But we weren't very good at telling the rest of the world that, hey, we're open. Mm-hmm. Everybody was focusing on countries like Thailand and Indonesia and stuff like that. But we weren't very good at telling that story.
Yeah. And what are you seeing your guests are demanding now that they weren't demanding before?
They want that genuine connection with the staff. And they wanted it before too, but now it's become more of a sense of urgency. I think it's from the COVID situation where people now really want to connect with the staff. They want to have a dialogue with them when they're here. They want to have that relationship building. So it's not so much important anymore for them to get to know the managing director or the GM of the hotel. They want to get to know Sombok, the waiter in the restaurant, or the bartender. They want to create that connection with the guests.
It's a little bit like what you said about Japan, perhaps.
I think there's two thoughts to this. And do people want more digital? I think they don't, right? I think people want to have a seamless experience, easy to connect, easy to arrive, easy to get into the room. Room needs to work, but they want to build that connection with the local community, right? And that's what they want to do. People want to experience the local community. I mean, I remember working at the Four Seasons in Bali, in Jimbaran Bay.
Beautiful property.
Beautiful property, right? But so we would serve, this is in 2001, so 21 years ago. We would serve hamburgers in PJ's restaurant for $25. And the guests would rather pay $25 for the hamburger than walk down to one of the local fish restaurants and eat there, because people were scared of the local community. And here, I mean, we do food tours almost every day where people want to go out and see what the market, go to the market, buy the food, and then our chefs will help them prepare, or they go to the local cooking school. People want to learn that and then take that with them home afterwards.
Yeah, I agree, especially when it's so healthy, as I said earlier. And for people who haven't stayed at a Rosewood, who've perhaps stayed at Four Seasons and other high-end brands, what is the difference in the Rosewood DNA?
Well, the difference within the Rosewood DNA is that we are a business where we drive something called sense of place. We have a calling, but it's also relationship hospitality, where we really want to build a relationship with our guests. We are also a small and nimble company. You know, we're not held back by old standards and old tactics. We have 25 hotels. Yes, we're going to grow probably to 40 or 50 hotels over the next 5 to 10 years. But it's a brand that really resonates with our guests. If you walk into Rosewood in Madrid, for example, Villa Magna, or you walk into the Rosewood in London, or you walk into the Carlisle in New York, or you come here, these are different products. And I think when you walk into many of the other luxury brands, okay, I'm in this St. Regis guest room right now. I'm at a Ritz-Carlton guest room, right? Here, it's different, right? It's high-end luxury, but the rooms and the buildings are built for a purpose of being a Rosewood, a sense of place, right? So it's different.
Absolutely. We just spoke to Marlene Pointer, the managing director of the Carlisle in New York, in fact, and we were talking about that very thing, that Rosewood really, the properties are just so different. You know, I don't know if that was a deliberate strategy from the beginning.
They decided to do more residential buildings in the beginning, and I think that's the way the market is going right now. I mean, some of the other brands are doing the same thing, taking a bank and turning it into a hotel. But it's the drive that Sona Cheng, our CEO, has to make each of the hotels bespoke, each of the hotels interesting and different. You know, it's the cultural DNA is always the same, regardless what hotel you go to, right? But making those bespoke decisions for the hotels.
Absolutely. And before we go, I have to say how much I just love your wellness facility. I'm a bit of a fitness junkie. The swimming pool, the massage I had, the gym, what an extraordinary, and that beautiful sort of spa that you've got within the women's change room. It's just what an experience to go there.
Thank you. Did you try our medical manicure pedicure when you were here?
No. What's that?
No. So we work in conjunction with Bastien Gonzalez out of France. So we have a medical manicure pedicure here. So it's not about you going getting your nails done, right? It's about the whole treatment, and the staff there will teach you how to look after your feet better. Apparently men are very bad at that, and hands and things like that. And we launched it, and it's almost more successful than the spa right now, where people just want to come for that treatment. And a lot of men are going there too, which is interesting. Yeah.
Fantastic. I have to say, medical wellness, there's a massive growth in that. I mean, there's a number of hotels I've spoken to in Southeast Asia who are now implementing blood tests when you arrive, so they can give you your information and say, you know, think about this and that with your nutrition. So I haven't heard of this though. This is really interesting. Medical grade manicures and pedicures. It's just another reason to come back to Rosewood.
Another reason to come to Cambodia.
100%. Look, Daniel, it's wonderful to speak with you. As I said, I'm just besotted with your hotel. It's absolutely extraordinary. But before we go, we ask all our guests, where to from here for you?
Okay. Don't know. I hopefully we'll stay here for the next 2-3 years. I mean, we really like Phnom Penh. It's a small city. Everybody knows everybody, so you build connections very quickly. It's a great community, very supportive community, where Other hoteliers help me out and I help to support them. It just has a good vibe to it. And we're not too far away from other capital cities in Southeast Asia. So for the next 2-3 years, I'm hoping to stay here.
Fantastic. And it's a really great expat community, which seems to be quite big, was my perception when I was there.
It's smaller now than it was, but it is quite big. There's a lot of NGOs here, there's a lot of embassies. The big difference between us and Bangkok and Singapore is that we don't have the big conglomerates. We don't have the big banks and things like that here.
Right.
It's coming, but not yet. So there is a good expat community here and it's very tight. I mean, the chambers are very well connected. There's a lot of activities going on. I mean, there's not a boring city. You can do something every day. There's something to do every day for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I hope to meet you in person soon. And I'm hoping to bring my children to Cambodia because I think, as a mother, I think every young person should experience that country as soon as possible and all the different things that it has to offer.
We'll love to have you back.
Thank you so much. We'll hopefully see you soon.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye, Daniel.
Bye.
Don't forget to subscribe here and follow us on Instagram and Facebook for regular travel updates. You can also hear our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.